we have finished the bhakti section completely. So today, that is the bhakti section is from chapter 7 to 12, and yesterday we did the bhakti yoga chapter, and today we are going to be embarking um, on the jnana chapters. So let me just open the slides. The jnana chapters are actually are a product of bhakti, and also it can be vice versa. So it's possible that through jnana you can come to the bhakti level, or it is also possible that through bhakti, once you have bhakti, Krishna says in several verses that when you start your bhakti, your journey in bhakti, Krishna will light the jnana deep in your heart, and once he does that, automatically jnana will come. So actually, there are Mayavadis. Mayavadis are impersonalists. That is a term which Srila Prabhupada uses for impersonalists, the Mayavadis, who believe that Krishna is just a person who comes, and then they don't believe in Krishna as God. Firstly, secondly, they believe in God as being a power, and he just comes, and then he is affected by Maya when he's in the form of a human being, and they don't understand that Krishna is transcendental. So these Mayavadis, basically, that is the impersonalists, they believe they attain only the Brahman level, which is the first level. So they are also transcendentalists, but they reach only the Brahman level. They are unable to progress. It will take them a long time before they can progress to the Bhakti level. And only after they reach the Bhakti level do they really reach Krishna Loka. Otherwise, they will stay in the Brahman effulgence, and there they cannot stay for long. So Krishna says that, the fall is confirmed. They do fall ultimately. They might be there in Brahman, but it is without any activities. They cannot stay in the Brahman effulgence for long, and so they ultimately have to fall down. So chapter 13, so in chapter 12, we saw about bhakti, basically, in bhakti yoga. We understood how Krishna tells us that bhakti is the highest form. There were three very nice sections there. So in the first section, we saw how Krishna describes the difference between the impersonalists and the personalists. And then we looked at a lot of differences between them, and we understood that well. Hope everybody remembers. And secondly, we studied about the steps of bhakti, where Krishna spoke about how Ananya bhakti is the highest, then sadhana bhakti, then nishkam karma yoga, and then he talks about those different areas, those levels where Krishna is not involved. For example, do good, be good, that sort of thing, or just pursuing jnana for just inquisitive to know, or just sitting and meditating on the Brahman effulgence. So these are the lower levels which do not concern Krishna. And finally, yesterday we looked at the ashtakas. We looked at the Triyashtakas, where Krishna explains so beautifully what kind of people are what kind of devotees does Krishna really love, who are dear to him. So, we have to try to be devotees who are dear to Krishna. It's not only that we love him, but we should see that we are noticed by him. So they usually say that to be noticed by the Lord, we have to have exceptional, we should do some, we should reach an exceptional level of devotion. For example, even in a temple, they say that when you go to the temple, we are not such great devotees, but the Lord will notice the devotees. So when you know that, there is a devotee there, it's good to go and stand near or behind the devotee so that the Lord has, better chances to notice you. So Krishna will always, although he says that I'm impartial, I am equal to everyone, but then there is a amount of reciprocation which he is forced to do with the devotees, and ultimately he actually takes complete care of the devotees to the degree to which they are surrendered. That is the beauty of being a devotee. Once you become a devotee, then you don't have to worry about anything because Krishna takes care of everything, and you will start feeling that when you start chanting regularly, because chanting is a yuga dharma. In Kali Yuga, the only way to really achieve Krishna is through chanting. So this is something which we should understand, and somehow everyone should take up to chanting very seriously and make it a daily part. Initially, I repeat, it's going to be tough but then you have to, gradually put in your efforts and do it, even though it may be unpleasant in the beginning. You have your thoughts roaming about you, but the thoughts will continue, even if you chant for so long, thoughts, your mind is always like a monkey. It will, always be jumping from here to there. But then you have to continue chanting, and you need to be a strict taskmaster on your mind and keep getting it back. It'll again jump, get it back, and keep your chanting. Because they say that, in fact, not they say, there are proof of so many transformed lives simply by chanting. There's so many, books written by of the glorification of the holy name. In fact, the holy name is revered in almost, everywhere. Any religion which propounds that, the only duty of for every human being is to serve the Lord. That is true religion. If they're not leading you to God, that is not religion. So any religion which is telling you that, they tell you the way of reaching God. And in Kali Yuga, we know that it is through repeated chanting of the holy name of the Lord. And we have been given through the scriptures the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So we need to say the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come specially to give it to us. And it has been there in the scriptures even much before also. It's not something new. It's not something that ISKCON just randomly started. It has been there all along, and Prabhupada just took it further, and he was able to show the world the miracle of the Maha Mantra, because it is chanted now, all over the world. We have so many ISKCON temples and so many devotees who are taking it to chanting. Of course, everybody will never come to this because they are contaminated, or because they have their, Krishna loves everybody. He will guide them. We need not worry about everyone. But we can definitely ensure that we are in devotee association, and the people whom we are associated with, we can try and make them see how beautiful devotional service is. So let's begin today's Bhagavad Gita for adults 7 p.m. English class. Welcome you all. Very warm welcome, and truly grateful to you for joining on a Sunday and on a festival day. Today is Ashtami. I have also just lit my lamp and put my books. Actually, in Kerala, I belong to Kerala. So we put these books for, Grantham. We keep these books for the gods. And then we're not supposed to read till Dashmi morning. But since I'm a teacher also, so it's really not possible. Still, I have kept some of my books and asked my son also to keep. So we did just all that puja, and then I quickly came so that I can, don't miss my class. So glad that you also have taken the effort to come and be here. These are the beautiful deities of Shri Shri Radha Govinda Temple of ISKCON, Mangalore. I have no words to thank this temple and the temple president Namnishta Prabhu and all the different teachers who have been teaching via the online classes throughout the COVID. I think from the time COVID started, every month I have been doing this course from some devotee or the other. I've also done courses from ISKCON Chennai. So you will find some of my slides are from, I have taken screenshots from the classes of Ravi Prabhu, and also several slides I was also taken from ISKCON Chennai classes. They also had Gita Made Easy classes, and I've also done maximum classes from ISKCON Mangalore. And I'm truly grateful to ISKCON, and especially ISKCON Mangalore, for giving me this opportunity to understand what Bhagavad Gita really is, who Krishna really is, and what is demigod worship, how important deity worship is, and so many aspects about which I had really, doubts about. The 5 important things which the Bhagavad Gita talks about, which is basically the soul, that is Jivatma, the super soul, or the Paramatma, or the Lord himself, Prakriti, then Kala, and Karma. So these are the 5, main topics of Bhagavad Gita. And I think we are all getting to know these very well. In the future classes, that is chapter 14, we'll be studying about Maya, or nature, or Prakriti. It will be a detailed study. We'll be continuing the detailed study in chapter 17 actually. And in 16, we'll be studying about the, the Daivi gunas and the Asuri gunas, which is also quite interesting to go through. And then finally in chapter 18, it will be a summary of the whole Bhagavad Gita with a lot of, more insights. So I hope those of you who are here will stay with me for the next few days till we complete these 18 days, and also continue your journey as I have, never stopped once I started. So continuing on this beautiful journey, and once more, just looking at these beautiful deities and seeking their blessings, and offering obeisances to Guru. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Shri Mate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namne Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Prasharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All glories to Founder Acharya, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. I can't begin a class without mentioning his name, because I don't, fail to feel an extreme sense of awe and admiration for Prabhuji, for Srila Prabhupada, because of the immense transformation he has brought in the lives of many people. If some of you are getting fed up of listening to his name, and you don't really know what Prabhupada has done, I think eventually when you get to know him, you will be able to realize, what an immense service he has done to humankind by bringing out the teachings of Bhagavad Gita as it is, from the eyes of a devotee, rather than listening to it from impersonalists and Mayavadis and those who just, make just a show of their understanding and try to explain it in an academic way, which is not how it is supposed to be understood. It should be understood from the eyes of a devotee and through the bona fide master, a guru. His disciple, His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Guru Maharaj, and His Holiness and his disciple, Temple President, His Grace Namnishta Das Prabhu, and my Guru, Aishwarya Rai Mataji. I would pay my humble obeisances, Panchang Pranam to them before I start. Today we are in Kshetragya Vibhaga Yoga, which is chapter 13. It is all about nature. What is nature? We'll just get a brief introduction to nature. The main study of nature will happen tomorrow, which is the, Maya. We will learn about Maya. Today we are just going to begin understanding a little bit about nature, and then about who is the enjoyer of nature, who really is the enjoyer. We think that we are the enjoyers. Many people think that we are only here to enjoy. And then we understand what is consciousness. So in the first, there are primarily 3 sections actually. And but dividing it a little further, let's look at it from 6 parts. The first part is when Arjuna is simply asking his 6 questions, and then Krishna will describe what is Kshetra, what is Kshetragya and Jnana in 13.2 till 13.7. And then in the third part, we are going to study about Jnana as a process of acquiring knowledge, and what is Gyayam as an object of knowledge. So Jnana is a process of acquiring knowledge, and Gyayam is that which is knowledge, what should we consider as the object of our knowledge. And Krishna will tell us very clearly what, that everything else is Ajnana. Everything else in this world is actually not knowledge. He will explain to us what is knowledge in 13.13 to 19. 13.20 to 26, we will look about what is Prakriti, Purusha, and their union. And we will also look at a very important term, which is Jnana Chakshu. We will understand what is vision of knowledge. So once a person achieves, self-realization and becomes wise, what kind of eyes will he have? He will be able to see the world in a completely different way. Life will transform once you really, incorporate this knowledge into your deep understanding, and you're able to view the world through this knowledge. The whole life will transform. The way you look at the world will transform, and you will really experience that. So the 6 questions that he's going to ask, Arjuna is going to ask, is what is Prakriti? What is material nature? Who is Purusha? So who is the enjoyer of Prakriti? What is Kshetra? The Kshetra, as in, the answer is that the Kshetra is basically the body, or the Shariram, or the place which is the basis of all the activities. Kshetragya is a person who knows the body. Gya stands for Gyan, and Kshetra stands for the body. So the knower of the body. We will come to know that there are 2 knowers of the body. That is, one is our own soul, and one is a super soul. So the knower of the body is soul, and the soul knows this body. I know what is happening in my body, to a certain degree, not as much as Supersoul. The Supersoul knows everything happening not only in my body, but the Supersoul knows everything happening in every other body around. So the Supersoul exists as Paramatma in every single atom around, in every single living entity, everywhere, all around, and he knows absolutely everything. There is nothing that can be, hidden from that Supersoul who knows everything. He's observing all the time. He's observing. It's like a CCTV. The CC camera is there absolutely all the time, observing everything, knowing everything. Nothing can be hidden. So the next is Krishna will, he asks what is exactly Jnanam. Arjuna wants to know what is Jnanam, and Krishna will explain. He will explain to Arjuna that the only Jnanam, the only thing that you need to understand is Kshetra and Kshetragya. That is Jnanam. If you know what is Kshetra, that is, you know the body, and you know the Kshetragya, which is the soul and the super soul. So once you understand your body, and once you understand the soul in your body, and you understand the super soul which is there in every single living entity and atom around, that is knowledge. That's it. Krishna makes it very clear. And what is the goal of knowledge? The goal of knowledge is to realize the Paramatma, or to realize Krishna. What is the goal of knowledge? What is the Geyam? So he will explain that. So we will look at this chapter and in detail. So just patiently be with me as we go through it. It's got a lot of, little bit of, I don't know, for me it was tough. Maybe for you it's not, but, or maybe if I can explain it well, it may not be. So let me try my best. So in the beginning, Arjuna said, "Oh, my dear Krishna, I wish to know about Prakriti, Purusha, the field and the knower of the field, and of knowledge and the end of knowledge." The blessed Lord replies in the second verse, "O son of Kunti, this body is the field, that is Kshetra, and the one who knows this body is the Kshetragya, or the knower of the field." So I guess everybody is clear about these two terms, which Krishna answers immediately. Krishna doesn't wait and does a long introduction or anything. He just, gives us the answer immediately, right away. Kshetra is the body, or by the field of activity, and Kshetragya is the person who knows this field. It actually, there are two. He will explain that there are two of them. One is a soul and one is a super soul. So we quickly look at the difference between the soul and the super soul. The super soul is a knower of all bodies, whereas the soul knows only, we can feel and experience only what is within our body. So we are the Jivatma. We have a consciousness which is spread only within this body. The owner, related to the who is the owner and controller. Of course, the super soul is the supreme owner and controller of even our own body. We cannot even lift a finger without the sanction of the Lord. That is why when people make big plans, it's actually a big joke. There was a nice joke actually. I'm not able to remember exactly, but it was so hilarious. Somebody asks, something related to planning actually. So you can, basically we keep planning and making big plans, but unless our plan is in coordination, or it is just exactly as per what the Lord wants, that plan will not be a success. Because unless, that is why when we are in bhakti, we allow Krishna to take control. And then what the devotee does is always correct, because the Lord has taken over, and nothing, will fail once it is going as per the plan of the Lord. So the super soul it has got supreme control. He is the one who will decide everything ultimately. And the soul has only secondary control. It's not like the Jivatma has no control and we are totally helpless. In fact, if we are not surrendering to the Lord will only sit and observe. He will not, of course, with his sanction, things will happen, but he will not interfere. He will allow you to go and pursue all your stupid desires and your stupid plans, and he will allow some to happen. He will allow some based on his, what he thinks is best for us. He will, and based on how much we have desire, or based on our own karma phala. So based on our gunas and karmas, and our desires, Krishna will allow things to happen. So that is a limited liberty that Krishna gives to everyone. So it is secondary. The ownership and controlling of the body is only secondary for the jiva. What is the position of the super soul? It's infallible, always superior to the soul. So even if Krishna, he's a lord of the universe, but he comes and he becomes a charioteer for Arjuna. Or he's, just a cow, taking care of the cows. During his childhood. So he's just like just taking care of cows. Or he becomes a king later. So whatever are the different roles he takes in the battlefield, when he starts preaching, he's taking the position like a Brahman or a guru. So he takes so many roles, but he's infallible at all times. But the soul is fallible. Anytime it can fall down. And it is always subordinate to the position of the soul is always subordinate to the super soul. Some people don't like to hear this. They like to think that, oh, I am God actually. I am, we are actually God. We are just trapped in this body. Once we get liberated, we become one with God, and then we become God. So Chaitanya explains this very beautifully. He says that, there is some truth to both points, basically. He gives the theory of Achintya Bheda Bhed, which means Achintya is inconceivable. The Lord is always inconceivable. At the same time, there is, we were talking about, the Lord is inconceivable, first of all. And second is, how is the Lord similar? How are we similar to the Lord? In quality, we are similar. So Krishna has said several times that if you become a pure devotee, your soul will take over the same qualities as himself. That means our soul will become purified. It will not be contaminated, or it'll come out from the state of being conditioned, because it is free from the three material modes, because we are offering everything to Krishna. We are getting purified from our sins. We don't have any sense of proprietorship, and then we become our subtle body as well as our gross body are no more there, and we shine like we are only that soul, that spirit soul becomes free from that. And in that position, we are actually equal in quality to the Lord himself. But in quantity, we will always remain a small, minute speck compared to the huge ocean or the everything else. And we can never conceive this, because for us, when we just look at the Milky Way and then we imagine the endless universe itself, we are so shocked. Now, this entire huge universe is just one universe. From the pores of Garbhodaksha Vishnu, the universes are coming out. Each and every universe has got from the pores of Karnodaksha Vishnu, so many universes are coming out. In every universe, the Garbhodaksha Vishnu is there, and there's a Brahma. There's not one Brahma. We are so shocked to just hear about our Brahma and how his one day is equal to 1,000 Chaturyugas. And we can't even imagine one Chaturyuga itself. Now, where are we? There are like some 4,32,000 years, and we are somewhere only 5,000 are over or something like that. So just after Kali Yuga has started, only about 5,000 years are over. And now so many years are left even for Kali Yuga. And then the 4 Chaturyugas will repeat 1,000 times, and that will be equal to one Kalpa, which is one day of Brahma. And that way Brahma will have 100 years. And, then this particular Brahma will, even Brahma has got death, because he's also in the material world. And then another soul who has, who has reached a higher level in terms of surrender and devotion will take up the form of the Brahma for the universe. And in fact, the whole universe will become non-manifest and manifest again. So the scriptures actually explain so much, and it is so vast for us. It's almost like it's inconceivable. And this whole thing is only in the material world. And they say the spiritual world is much, much bigger than the material world. So you can't imagine, it's like out of our, it's not possible for us to even conceive the time, and how much the time is, how little we can't conceive the immensity of everything that we read in the scripture. It's always so awe-inspiring, and it's so unbelievable. It's so beautiful, I would say. Looking at a little more detail, this is actually, I've taken a slide from Ravi Prabhu's class in level 2. So taking, his blessings, I'll continue. So the soul is, basically Jivatma, and super soul is Paramatma. And then the soul is Anu, it's infinitesimally small. The size of the soul is considered to be 1/10,000 size of the tip of the hair. right? So if you take a tip of the hair and divide it into 1,000 parts and then take that part and divide it again into 1,000, so 10,000 of the tip of the hair, that's small it is, anu it is. Whereas the super soul is vibhu, and the super soul actually exists in every atom. So it can, it can become infinitesimally small, and also it is spread all over. So we can't even, again, it's inconceivable. Super soul is inconceivable. The soul is cognizant or knows only its own body. The super soul is cognizant and knows everything, not only everything and everyone, it even knows the past and the future of everything that's happening. The soul is a secondary proprietor, and the analogy is a citizen. The analogy is that of a citizen as a proprietor of one land. Suppose you are having like one land, whereas a king, or the owner of the whole country, everything is his. So he knows about everything. He can anytime he knows what is happening everywhere. So super soul knows about every all the bodies. Soul is secondary controller of senses. Supreme Lord is Rishikesha. I think I said Rishikesha so many times because I really love that word. I've told you. I love that name of Krishna. So he is the supreme controller, fallible, infallible, we've seen. We are servitors. We should understand that we are servitors. And there are innumerable living entities, but a super soul, although, this is a very unique thing, although the super soul is present in every single individual living entity, and in fact, every atom also is everywhere, still is one. The super soul is one. And in fact, although we see Krishna's super soul form, we know that Krishna has a universal form, Krishna has a personal form, but each one of them is not different. They are one. At the same time, they are, they are present everywhere. For example, if Krishna has come as Chaitanya Prabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, if he has come, it doesn't mean that Krishna is not there. Krishna is also there, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also there. He is Krishna. So it is difficult for us to understand. He's actually the Lord. For example, when he had 16,000 wives, he was there present for every wife 24/7. It was not like he had to go running to each one separately. He was present there for each of them fully all the time. So that is that is the Lord. We can't even think of understanding him or even anything. It's inconceivable. That's the only word which is suitable. And what is jnana? Jnana is only three things you need to understand. Once you understand that you are not this body, and you understand that this is the kshetra, this is like the kshetra, the body is your kshetra, and you are the kshetragya or the soul, and there is another kshetragya who is a super soul or the paramatma, which is one and situated in your heart and everywhere. If you understand this, I'm repeating again and again because we really don't understand. We say it as even I'm just saying it with my mouth. It's so difficult to really get it. That's why we have to read it again and again to really understand it. So we're looking at the soul as consciousness. Soul has consciousness. The soul's consciousness is spread all over the body. So let's look at this verse, which is 13.3. It says, Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata kshetra kshetrajnayor jnanam yajtajnanam matam mama. O scion of Bharata, you should understand that I am also the knower in all bodies. So here Krishna says so clearly, it's not like you become God. You are there, but I am the knower of all bodies. So you are also the kshetragya, but you only know your body. I am the knower of all bodies, and its owner, and I am its owner. And knowing this whole thing is knowledge. Yat taj jnanam matam mama. That is my opinion. And here we are quickly taking a look at the three states of consciousness: awake, asleep, and dreaming. When you're in deep sleep, when you're dreaming, and when you're wide awake. In all the states, actually, the jiva and the paramatma are awake. The soul as well as the super soul are awake, and they're there. They are, and the soul, however, if you can look at all the three pictures carefully, in each of these pictures, the first one, he's awake and doing all random things. The super soul is there in his heart, but he is turning his head away. When he's sleeping, he's dreaming of all the wild dreams and, all these stupid desires that he's having. He's dreaming all that. But his head is turned away. He's not realizing the Lord within his heart. And then even when he goes into deep sleep, his head is basically turned away. And the fourth state is Turiya, when you start becoming aware of this Paramatma in your heart always. So a person who reaches this highest state of consciousness is actually always working for the pleasure of the Lord, because he knows that he is, he knows that he is not Purusha. He knows that he is actually part of nature. He understands that he is actually part of Prakriti. And his, the Purusha is the enjoyer. The Purusha is the only Purusha in the whole universe is the Lord himself. So the Paramatma in his heart is the only is the only Purusha. And the duty of the soul is to please the Lord. Why? Because when he pleases the Lord, not only does, not only is the Lord pleased, but all the living entities become pleased. All the demigods become pleased, because when the Lord is pleased, everyone becomes pleased. The Lord sitting in everyone's heart, and so everyone becomes pleased. And then, that is how we reach eternal bliss, when we understand this basic concept. Oh, sky of Bharata, you should understand that I am also the knower. Yeah, we've done this. So this is verse 13.3. I hope I finished by 8 o'clock, because this chapter has a lot of concepts and I didn't want to race through it. So what are the different stages of consciousness that we just heard? You're supposed to raise a digital hand or put it in the Zoom. But if you want, you would like to answer. We just discussed this. Basically, it is sleep, awake. State of awake is Jagriti. And when you are in the Jagriti state, as you can see in the picture, the consciousness is rooted only in the gross material body. And then when we fall asleep, it's in like Swapnavastha, and the consciousness is rooted till the subtle material body also, that is our intelligence, mind and ego. Also the consciousness is, at that time our subconscious, which is our subtle body, including our mind, intelligence, is also, awake. And when the consciousness is not rooted anywhere, it is the Sushupti, when you're in deep sleep. And when the consciousness gets rooted to the spiritual realm, you realize that you are actually part of the spiritual world and you are in a transcendental state that is called Turiya. So that is the highest state, and our aim should be to reach Turiya state, and that will happen when we become in Krishna consciousness, which can happen through chanting. So this is just a picture showing the analogy of the kshetra. So this is the farmer. This is a farmer. You can see him. He has a plot of land. He knows everything about this land, where there's water, what is he planting, everything. But the king, he will know, the king of the place will know not only his farm, this particular farmer's farm, but he knows the details of every other farm. So that is just an analogy which has been depicted through a picture. In here we can see in 13.5, that knowledge of, this is a picture of Vyasadeva, that knowledge of the field of activities and of the knower of activities is described by various stages in various Vedic writings. Veda Vyasa is the one who has written the Mahabharata as well as the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita, which is a part of the Bhagavatam. Veda Vyasa is considered to be an incarnation. Incarnations are of many types of the Lord himself. And so, he actually gets all his understanding from the Lord himself. So it is especially presented in the Vedanta Sutra with all reasoning as to cause and effect. That is why we need to understand scriptures. Spiritual knowledge has to always come in a descending manner. It has to come from the Lord. Whereas a material knowledge, it can go ascending, and it doesn't make much sense because I've said this many times, our senses are imperfect, and whatever we struggle to know with our limited brain and our senses can never be perfect. So we need to rely on the scriptures and the descending form of knowledge. Now we're going to look at the forms of the levels of consciousness. There are different levels of consciousness in the Annamaya. A person who is in the Annamaya Kosha, these are called Koshas, Annamaya Kosha, he's all the time thinking of Anna, which is food. He's forever worried about food. So there are, certain people who cannot think of anything beyond the daily food, right? They will always be praying to God, oh God, give me my daily bread. And they get the bread, they're happy. They don't have anything more to think about. And this is similar to animals because, maybe from the animals, they have just become into humans. So they are more, living an animalistic kind of existence where they're only bothered about eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, which every animal also, does very well. So when a human being is only bothered about eating, sleeping, defending, and mating, he is only concerned about his body. Then he is in his consciousness is at the Annamaya level. Now, after some time, what happens is as he progresses, he reaches the Pranamaya level of consciousness, where now he is able to think about life in general, broader. He's able to think about prana or his life. He tries to secure his life so that he doesn't need to worry about his daily needs and worry about his daily bread. So probably he'll invest in something, he'll keep a house or he'll keep some savings, and but that is also still at the level of an animal only, because animals also try to secure their lives. For example, a dog will demarcate his region, he will ensure that others don't come, and so his thing is safe. And maybe birds will build their nest and there's an area which they keep marked for themselves. So you're securing your life is also not so great. It is still at a lower level. And then comes the Jnanamaya or the Manomaya. Now this is also not so great because this is when you rely on your mind. You're speculating, you're thinking, and you start thinking that, oh, this is my perspective, I think like this. And then we, in fact, nowadays in schools, we say, we should respect everybody's perspective and everybody has a right to think what they want. It's like, when people look at the elephant, some will touch the tail and say, oh, this is actually a rope. Oh, yes, it is a rope. And somebody else will say, oh, this is actually, he will touch the ears and say, this is like a fan. And so they'll all have different perspectives. And we say, everybody's right. Yes, everybody's right. But someone who comes and shows you the whole picture of the elephant and says, look, dear, you're a human being and your purpose is to realize God. There is a spiritual world. You are now trapped in this material world. You have gone through so many different species of animals and birds. And at last, you have got the human life. And after so many human births, now you have come to realize Krishna. So stop, bothering him. So till you come to that level, you allow your mind to dictate your terms. You keep thinking that what I think is right. And then you also try to be broader. What everybody thinks is right. Yes, it's right. But then somebody is there in the spiritual, who is, telling you that you are actually spirit soul. And that when it comes to understanding of your spiritual knowledge, the Vijnanamaya is Vishesh Jnana. And then they reach the higher level of Vishesh Jnana, where he starts actually thinking about, who am I? And then they start realizing I'm not this body. So what is my purpose? Why am I having this body now? What's going to happen when I die? Or, so they start looking at the broader questions of what the reason of the human birth is not simply to sit over there and eat, sleep, mate, and defend. Or just keeping on studying the material world through your limited material senses and just have a superiority feeling that I have understood and I have done so much of academic study and what you're learning is just based on your material senses. But then realizing the higher purpose of human life by reading the scriptures is when you start your Vijnanamaya. You reach the Vijnanamaya level. Still higher than that, of course, is when you realize yourself. When you realize yourself, the self means the Jivatma. You realize that yourself or Jivatma is part and parcel of the Lord or Paramatma. And therefore, you have qualities equal to the Lord. You're only, quantity-wise, you are a small Jivatma, but actually you have all the qualities of the Lord himself. And how will you realize yourself? By removing all the dust which is accumulated over so many births, due to all your desires and lust and your sense of proprietorship and so many things which has covered you and conditioned you, and the modes of nature that have trapped you. So you need to realize what is your real position, and then you will reach the Anandamaya level, which is supreme bliss. When you reach the Anandamaya level, you will be in supreme bliss. So I've just put in all these points again in this slide. In the Annamaya, life is only about food. And some people just get stuck there the whole life, and even for several lives, they're only bothered about, okay, what to eat, how to eat. And, they're only bothered about how to give their tongue good taste. And then pranamaya, life is about securing your life. You build a house, you keep a CCTV, you keep your dogs to take care of whatever. Manomaya, when you think about your thoughts, and I feel this, he feels this, and everybody, and you're fighting with each other with what he feels and what you feel, and the different perspectives. Vijnanamaya is when you come to Vishesh Jnana, that you're not the body and the soul stage. And then Anandamaya is when you're in bliss, when you understand Krishna and you start living a life of Krishna consciousness. This is the highest level of consciousness. The human beings actually are even only human beings. We think human beings means Homo sapiens, one species. But actually, there are 4 lakh species of human beings alone based on what Krishna is speaking in the scriptures. All scriptures come from Krishna. It's about how aware each person is, the degree of awareness that different people have, the modes which are predominant in everyone. Based on these, there are so many species of people are there. The first two, Annamaya and Pranamaya, are present in animals also. The consciousness level in all the animals are up to Annamaya and Pranamaya. Then the third level onwards, they become more strong in human beings. Vijnanamaya is only for those who are intelligent. Those who are still not reached that intelligence level is still low. They're in the species where the intelligence level is low, they will be stuck in the Jnanamaya, where they're just speculating about the material world. The Jnanamaya is only when the higher level of intelligence, those species of human beings they reach, they're in a higher level of intelligence when they start understanding that they're not the body, they are the soul. And the highest is when they understand that, the purpose of their life is to understand Krishna, and the purpose of all the Vedas is simply to understand the Lord, and that your position is to serve the Lord. And then there is a spiritual world and all what the scriptures are saying. Happiness is only in the topmost stage. In all other stages, people think that they are happy. They think, I'm very happy over here. So actually, Maya makes you think that you're happy. There is a very funny story. I found it funny actually. Maybe I don't know how others would see it. But once Indra got cursed, the Lord Indra, the king of the heavens. By the way, heavens are in the material world. I think I have been saying that heaven is not in the spiritual world. People, some of the, religions, they only understand up to the level of heaven. But heaven is not in the spiritual world. Heaven is part of the material world where you go when you earn karma, do good, be good and all that. And then you get the the results of all your pious activities. You have to go to the higher planets. And the heavens are there. There are many heavenly planets which are there in the material world. Indra is the lord of the heaven, and he was cursed once to become a hog, basically a pig on the earth. And when he was born there, he started, he was very happy with his wife. He got a hog wife, and he was eating all the filth and the dirt. And then he had many hog children. So happy, and he even forgot the period of his curse was over, and then he forgot. Narada had cursed him. And it was so shocking. The power of Maya is such that you forget. And later on, when he gets back, when Narada comes and he reminds him sternly, come on, it's over. You are actually Indra. And then he goes back, and then he realizes how foolish he has been. How was he enjoying that hog body? So Maya is like that. Maya will actually make us feel that, oh, it's a beautiful world. But then, when we read the scriptures, we realize it is nothing but a dukhalayam, and that our true purpose is to realize that this body is actually a jail for us. The whole material world is actually a jail for us. And that realization, when it comes, that is when we get true bliss. All others are actually temporary happiness. Only place where there is true happiness is in the Anandamaya stage. So in 13.6 and 7, we look at the 5 great elements: false ego, intelligence, the unmanifested, the 10 senses, the mind, the 5 sense objects: desire, hatred, happiness, distress, aggregate, the life symptoms and convictions. All these are field of activities and its interactions. So here actually, it is described about, unmanifested is the pradhana, or the 3 modes of material nature. And desire, hatred, happiness, distress, all these are interactions of the 5 elements with the gross body. And this actually needs a lot of, meditation to really understand. And the life symptom is consciousness and conviction. So basically here it is depicted in the form of a table. This is also taken from Ravi Prabhu's class. There are 24 material elements, the five great elements: false ego. There is the 5 gross elements are there: earth, water, fire, air, ether. Then the knowledge acquiring senses, eyes, nose, ears, tongue, and skin. And then the working senses, voice, legs, hands, anus, and genitals. The object of the senses, for the eyes, it is a form. For the nose, it is a smell. For the ears, it is a sound. For tongue, it is touch. And for skin, it is taste. And then we have the subtle elements, which are mind, intelligence, and false ego, and the unmanifested. So all these are said to be the field of activities and its interactions. So when a wise person will understand that the field of activities, basically the kshetra, that is the body, is forever interacting, and then you realize that this interaction is happening, and you are not really the doer, because these things are just happening, the nature and all these things, they interact with each other. So everything that is happening is due to these interactions, slightly difficult to understand. Then what happens is that you are able to see your soul separate from this, and you realize that the soul is basically has to take control, because the soul is actually in a higher position than the intelligence. Intelligence is higher than the mind. Mind is higher, in a higher level than the senses. The senses are in a higher level than the sense objects. So then you understand the hierarchy, and then you realize that you are soul. You realize that you are the soul, and that is when you are able to take control in the material. After that, the material world will not have any sway over you, and that happens when you realize that you are a servant of the Lord, and then you do things only as per what the Lord wants. So I don't know if I'm making enough sense. I hope that I'm just explaining how I have understood. Of course, there's a lot more and much more depth understanding yet to be done, but this is like, level 1. So I think it's okay. And let's look at the next one, which is the Jnanam. So Jnanam is the process of acquiring knowledge, which is where Krishna speaks about from 13:8 to 12 about how you can acquire knowledge. The only way to acquire knowledge is by getting these qualities. So it's very important that you understand these qualities and you try to imbibe these qualities, because unless you have these qualities, you cannot get knowledge. So knowledge requires these qualities. So let's look at them. Humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with your children, your wife, and your home, and the rest, even-mindedness amid pleasant as well as unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, that is Krishna, aspiring to live in a solitary place, and detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization and philosophical search of the absolute. So these are the process of getting true spiritual knowledge. And Krishna actually says so clearly, everything else that you learn, is ignorance. He declares it. Only these things, if you know these things, that is knowledge. Everything else is ignorance. Can you beat that? How clear Krishna is about what we're supposed to, what is knowledge? What is yayam? What is the thing that you need to learn? So these qualities you need to have. Let's quickly look at all of them. Humility means amanitvam, which means you are in a state where you're never anxious to be satisfied, to get that satisfaction of being honored. This is actually very difficult. Whenever we do something, we want to be appreciated. But simply cooking something, you want to hear, okay, how was it? And you want to hear, wow, it was nice. And you're waiting to get that satisfaction of being honored for the work you have done. Or you do something at your workplace and your boss doesn't appreciate, or nobody notices. Somehow you don't feel good about it. But humility is when you reach a state of mind where you'd have no more, you're not concerned to get that satisfaction of being honored. Pridelessness is adambhitvam, where you understand that you are not the body. And once you understand that, this honor and dishonor doesn't matter. Honor, dishonor, heat, cold, happiness, sadness, victory, defeat, everything becomes absolutely, no difference between all of them. In fact, there's no difference between a piece of stone and a piece of gold for one who becomes realized. It's a very tough stage to reach. Krishna is not simple. You have to really strive to get Krishna. Otherwise, you keep being born again and again. Non-violence is ahimsa. So unless you will elevate your spiritual knowledge and you practice, non-violence, till then you can't achieve spirituality. You cannot have spirituality and violence going together. So violence here means like not only not eating non-vegetarian, where you're just killing animals for your sense gratification. It also involves not hurting anybody's feelings. Even simply through thoughts and words, if you don't hurt others, only then it actually amounts to being a non-violent person. Tolerance is that shantim. You practice to bear insult or dishonor from others. You don't mind. You're very tolerant. So in the Chaitanya Shishtastakam, there is a beautiful verse. Trinadapi sunichena tarurapi sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtanya sada harihi. So once you become a pure devotee, what happens is, you're like a grass. People will trample or whatever, you're least bothered. You're like a tree. You're so tolerant. You're like, amanina manadena. You're ready to give everybody respect, and you're not even interested to see who is respecting or disrespecting you. You are ready to give respect to everyone. These are qualities you need actually to even begin chanting. You have to get some of these qualities. Why are we not able to chant? Why? Because we are still lusty. We still don't have qualities required to begin our spiritual journey. So once we hear the Gita, we know, okay, this is what I need to imbibe so that I can begin my spiritual journey. So simplicity is arjavam. You become very straightforward. Basically, you don't show one face and disclose another. You disclose one face and then you actually have another face. So duplicity is not there. You are very simple. Straightforward. So these business people and all who have so much of duplicity, they have to show one, they have to hide. They are, basically not spiritual, right? Because to be spiritual, you have to be simple. Accepting a spiritual master. This is very essential. I've explained this point before. Shaucham. So those who come to the spiritual level, they bathe. Actually they bathe every time they light the lamp. They bathe every time they make prasad. They bathe. Although for chanting, there is no rule. You can just chant without any bathing or anything. Because chanting is so pure, the Lord's name is so pure, you don't need to. Although it's nice to, but there's no need. There's no rule. Steadiness is thairyam, which means you're determined. It's very important. Intelligence is determination. And you need to be determined that I will chant, or I will, whatever you feel is required for spiritual growth, you will take it up with determination. Without determination, you will not make progress. So that is required. Self-control, which is Atma Vinigraha. You reject anything which is unfavorable. So what is it that you need to control? Do you need to control all your senses? No, you don't. If it is favorable towards your spiritual growth and taking you closer to Krishna, then it is favorable. You do it. But if it is, taking you away from Krishna, for example, if I go and sit and watch a movie for 3 hours, I'm not thinking of Krishna for those 3 hours. I'm going only for my own pleasure. Instead, I would have maybe read the Gita and Bhagavatam. I would have made some spiritual progress. So once you feel, you really understand what is it that will take me closer to Krishna. And when you become a pure devotee, every millisecond, you only want to do what is, taking you towards Krishna. That is called self-control. Renunciation of sense objects. Now, renunciation of sense objects is not really needed for devotees, because they will offer what they are, going to take to the Lord with all their heart and soul and love. Suppose you're eating something nice, you will offer it. It's not like they will go to the forest and eat the roots and leaves. At home, they will prepare some lovely dishes with all their love, give it to Krishna, offer it, pray. And Krishna, of course, doesn't need to come and eat, because he is transcendental. With his transcendental senses, he will take your prasada, he will accept your prasad, and then you will, of course, it won't disappear because he is transcendentally accepting it. And then you are taking the prasada. Then your senses, you're enjoying that. The prasada is so tasty, you're enjoying that. So you don't cater to unnecessary demands, gratified only to keep the body fit. That's it. Your only gratification you will accept is that I need to be fit. For a devotee, health is very important. That's why you will find that devotees are very healthy. If you go to the temple, you will see that these temple, the those who are worshipping the deities and all of them who are chanting and doing all the different services in the temple, they are so fit. They get up early in the morning and they start off with chanting, and there are different chores and whatever is required for deity worship. And then the whole day they are so busy. They're disseminating this knowledge of the Gita and Bhagavatam. They're distributing books and they're working so hard. So they are fit. They don't go to the gym or anything, but they are very healthy and fit. So then we have the next is absence of false ego. Basically, false ego is when you think I am the body, or when you think that whatever, you think about all your material qualifications and believe that that is me, without understanding that I am actually spirit soul. Perceptions of evil. What are the evils on this earth? Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. If you understand that these, regularly hear from proper sources, and then, when you really keep hearing, you will become disgusted. So there was, there are these, great saint stories who, there's this, even Haridas Thakur, he is chanting the whole time, and the prostitute comes because someone sends him saying that, he's actually a cheat, he's not really a devotee. And the prostitute goes there, and Haridas Thakur is least bothered. He's not even, in fact, he converts that prostitute into a devotee, and she takes up chanting after that. So the pure devotee never falls, and nothing, affects him. He is very clear. He is detached, and he is ready to sacrifice everything for Krishna. He knows that everything anyway belongs to Krishna. It's not like you go in front of the bank and you tell everybody, I renounce everything in this bank. It's very funny because it never belonged to you at all in the first place. What are you renouncing? There's nothing really to renounce because nothing really belongs to you. It's like, there's this thing is there where you just pick up some water and you pray and you offer it. So just taking something which belongs to the Lord and then you offer it. So that is what you're doing. Nothing really belonged to you in the beginning, in the first place. And such people who take to spirituality, they don't get entangled with their wife and children and family, etc. Because now they are attached to the higher taste, where they realize that once they attach themselves to Krishna, all other relationships become beautiful. That's why you will find the devotees rarely they won't have any enmity with anybody. They are having very good relationships with everyone. So should practice it if you can do it in a Krishna conscious way, but renounce if unfavorable for Krishna conscious. So yes, you take care of your family and everything, but you continue your journey on Krishna consciousness. Now, if your family is becoming an obstruction for the Krishna consciousness, only that is when you need to, consider what is to be done. But usually you try, in fact, you can influence your family also, those who are in your association, also to become devotees. That is the best, where the whole family becomes Krishna conscious. Then there is even-mindedness, which is, your person is not elated or distressed, very even-minded. Whether it is a material gain or a material loss, or by performing unbreakable devotional service, he really becomes like that. So Ananya Bhakti is one of the higher stages where you engage yourself in the 9 processes of Bhakti. Begin by one. Like right now, we're engaging in Shravana. When I'm talking about Krishna, I'm actually, anything when you discuss Krishna, it is Kirtana. So Shravana and Kirtana are both coming in this category of devotional service. It's part of one of the processes. Now, to do all 9 processes requires you to be highly elevated, but let's begin with some of the processes. You can get devotional service even with 1 or 2 processes, doing it regularly. Aspiring to live in a solitary place is basically not desiring to mix with materialistic people. You will find that, eventually as you grow in spirituality, you're not interested to sit and talk Brahmin Katha and gossip with materialistic people who are only bothered about, if you sit with them, they'll be gossiping. You don't enjoy that anymore. You want to be in the association of devotees. You become detached from the general mass of people. So it begins from the lower level, which is humility, which is itself difficult, and then it reaches the highest level. So this is a process. This whole thing that we heard is a process. Now from 13.13 to 19, let me go fast. It's actually time already, so I'll try to move faster. The Geyam is the object of the knowledge. What is the object of the knowledge? Like I told you, it is understanding the soul, the super soul, and the body. That's it. Then Krishna will describe the soul and the super soul in more detail. For example, he says that everywhere are his hands and legs. Whose hands and legs? The Paramatma's. His eyes, his heads, his faces, his ears, his face, his ears, everything. In this way, the super soul exists and pervades everywhere. And Krishna has transcendental senses, not like a limited material senses. The Supersoul is the origin source of all senses, yet he is without senses. He is unattached. Although he is a maintainer of all living beings, he transcends the modes of nature, and at the same time, he is a master of all modes. So Krishna says, if you understand these things given in these chapters, you become already liberated, because you understand Krishna as, he wants you to understand him. In the Brahma Samhita, another 10 minutes. The Brahma Samhita, we have this description of Govinda. I am Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose transcendental form is full of bliss, truth, substantiality, and is thus full of dazzling splendor. Each of the limbs of the transcendental figure of the Lord possesses in himself the full-fledged functions of all the organs, and he eternally sees, maintains, and manifests the infinite universes, both spiritual and mundane. So the Lord actually has, he has all these so many limbs and everything, and each of the limb can perform the functions of every other limb. So the transcendental body for us is difficult to understand. Then the supreme truth exists both internally and externally. He's there within us and also without us. And then we have further he describes the super soul. He talks about how the super soul appears to be divided, but actually he is one, which I've already explained through a chart earlier. And he's a source of light. The Lord is a source of knowledge, and he's a source of light of all luminous things. And he's beyond the darkness. He is knowledge. He's the object of knowledge. He's the goal of knowledge, and he's situated everywhere. So that is Krishna. Krishna is a light, and he's the one who, gives us the light of knowledge. So I'm trying to go a little fast now because it's time. In 13.19, we come to know that the field of activities is the body. Knowledge and knowable have been described already. Only devotees can understand this, and only they can attain to my nature. Only when you become a devotee, you will start getting Krishna's nature. So sometimes, here we can see the two birds which are there within. One is tasting the fruits of our actions. We are tasting the fruits of our actions, sometimes bitter fruits. But the Lord is there. He is simply watching unattached. This shows the Lord's intense patience and love for us. He will wait for us to turn to him. So this is a description of Kshetra, Kshetragya, and then these are some of the takeaways and the body. And it's so frustrating, that you're trapped in this body. But to understand, to think that you're the body is a very frustrating thing. You realize that you're the soul, and then that you're a servant of the all-powerful Lord, you actually feel liberated. And rather than trying to be a controller, you give the control to Krishna, and that's when you become truly happy. When you stop making all your own stupid plans based on your limited mind. When you surrender yourself to Krishna, you will work according to Krishna's plan, and everything will be beautiful. From verse 13.20 to 13.26, we look at who is the real enjoyer. We see that the real enjoyer is Purusha, is the Lord himself. And then we understand Prakriti, Purusha, and the union. So we are going to see the qualities of the Jiva, the qualities of material nature. Jiva is, of course, beginningless, but ignorant of his own reality, misidentifies himself with the body in the beginning, and he desires to enjoy the material world, and therefore he has to repeatedly move from one body to another. And God has given him free will, and is misusing that. And what is spiritual nature? The material nature, not spiritual nature. The material nature is beginningless. It provides the quarters for the jiva, and it controls the jiva with the three modes: Sattvagun, Rajogun, and Tamogun. And it is a temporary manifestation, and it keeps on transforming. The qualities of the super soul are that it's transcendental, it's a proprietor of everything, and it is a witness, and it is a committer. So please note, Krishna is watching. Like I told you, it's like a CCTV on all the time, everywhere. He's watching. He's aware of our most private thoughts and our actions. And then we look at this verse where we see that it's not only our body that keeps changing, but our consciousness level. Like I explained, all those consciousness levels. Don't think that you stick on any one consciousness level. You keep on moving up the ladder, and your consciousness keeps on changing. So the faster you become Krishna conscious, the faster you will reach the top of the consciousness level. And then there is this verse 13.21, which explains about how nature is said to be the cause of all material causes and effects, and the living entity is the cause of the suffering and enjoyment. Why? Because we are the ones who choose to do different actions which can give us results which are good or bad. Karma and vikarma we keep on doing. Instead, when we stop doing karma and vikarma and we stop doing akarma, where there is no job done. Why? Because we are offering everything to Krishna and then we don't have any more results to bear. So we have to be, and then in this verse, Krishna talks about importance of association. So we have to be very careful because, very often we take up the bodies in the next birth only because of the association we keep. So it's very important that we are very careful and we try our best to be in devotee association so that we continue on this journey of spirituality. Otherwise, a fall is very, very easy. It's very easy to fall down from wherever you reach. So it's important to just hold on. Although, the progress that you made is permanent. Krishna says that, wherever you are, you continue from there. But then when that stop of that progress can happen the moment you associate yourself with materialistic people. Now, this verse 22 is a bija vakya for the last, all the 6 chapters, the last 6 chapters of the Gita, the entire, last 6 chapters. It's a bija vakya, which is the 22, which says that, we just saw that already. The 22 is the one we just saw, which says that the living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life. It's enjoying the 3 modes of nature. This is due to its association with the material nature. And thus he meets with good and evil among the various species. See, it takes on to the various species. Yet in this body, there is another transcendental enjoyers. Actually, all these I've already discussed. The supreme proprietor who exists over the as an overseer, right? A super soul. And then we look at this verse, one who understands this philosophy, the material nature, the living entity, and the interaction of the modes of nature is sure to attain liberation. So please try to understand all these concepts, because then Krishna guarantees. Nowhere else you will get 100% guarantee. Krishna guarantees you will not take birth again. Just you need to understand, regardless of your present position. And some people will perceive the super soul within themselves through meditation, some of them through knowledge, and some others, by working without fruitive desires. So here we have this picture of Kapila, and hearing his mother. This Kapila Muni is actually an incarnation of the Lord, and he advises his mother about transcendentalism. And hearing is the easiest way of gaining Krishna consciousness. People say, oh, I should get through experience. Experiential learning is actually for the animals, for people with lower intelligence. But for those with higher intelligence, just listening to the scriptures and discourses from the higher authorities, they know where to go and they get there. So now we come to the last part of this chapter, which is Jnana Chakshu, how to acquire the Jnana Chakshu, which is, basically understanding this chapter very well, and then you will automatically get the Jnana Chakshu. How you get the knowledge about super soul is equally disposed, body is different from self, all material activities are simply performed by the body, it's not the soul, and then you are the one who has control over your mind as well as your senses, and if you understand all these things, there is a story of Dhanurdas and the mercy of Ramanujacharya at the temple of Ranganath Swami. I think I'm actually, its time is up. I'm so sorry. Some of you have, stayed on with me. It's time. I'll just quickly tell you. So there was this person, you can see in the picture below. Forever, he's so concerned about people looking at his wife that he's holding an umbrella and walking backwards. And then we have, Ramanujacharya who comes and he says, what are you doing? And he says, my wife's eyes are so beautiful. I don't want anybody, to look at her, and so he's so obsessed with his wife. And then Ramanujacharya says, come, I'll show you the temple, the deity. If you look at the deities, the Lord is there and he's so beautiful. And once you see that, I promise you that you will, not feel like looking anywhere else. And he actually shows him, he takes him to a temple. And when you are seeing the Lord with a devotee, that's when you really see. Sometimes you go to the temple, you can't really feel the Lord is in that deity. So actually, the Lord is in the deity. The deity is like a, there's a post box, the real post box, you put letters, it will go to the destination. Whereas, the other deities which are just idols of, those are like the post boxes which are not authentic, authentic. Put letters in that, it will not reach the destination. But the deity, it will reach, because the deities are the Lord himself, it will reach the Lord. Whatever you pray, it reaches. So then, but you need to be in association of a devotee to really get that. That is how when Dhanudas, he is in the association of Ramanujacharya, he transforms into a devotee thereafter when he sees a deity with him. That is the story, importance of association also. 13.27, it talks about basically, O chief of Bharatas, know that whatever you see in existence, moving, non-moving, is all a combination of field of activities and the knower of the field. That is 13.27. Samam sarveshu bhuteshu tishtantam parameshwaram vinashatsva vinashyantam yah pashyati sapashyati. The one who is able to see the super soul accompanying the individual soul in all the bodies and who understands that neither the soul nor the super soul is ever destroyed actually sees. If you just see this much, I don't think it's that tough, but then to really start seeing this, you can see it in this picture. You're able to see every super soul. You can see every being around you, everywhere. Then you get the Jnana Chakshu. So, samam pashyan hi sarvatra samavasthitam ishwaram nahi nastyatmanatmanam tato yati param gatim. So here Krishna is saying one who sees the super soul equally present everywhere in every living entity does not degrade himself by his mind, and he approaches his transcendental destination. And then we are into the last verses, I think, 34, I think. Why are we responsible for, this particular body? Because we are desiring. Because of our desires and our karmas that we get this body. When a sensible man ceases to see the different identities due to different bodies and he sees how beings are expanding everywhere, he attains a Brahman conception. And those with the vision of eternity can see that the imperishable soul is transcendental. Despite contact with material body, O Arjuna, the soul neither does anything nor is entangled. So he understands the nature of the soul, the nature of the super soul. So this is what is true knowledge. The sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything. Yes, the sky is all pervading, but doesn't mix with anything. Similarly, the soul situated in Brahman vision does not mix the body, though it is situated in the body. So the air enters into a water or mud or stool or whatever else is there, still it does not mix. Similarly, the living entity, even though it is situated in the body, is actually aloof from them due to its subtle nature. Therefore, it is impossible to see with the material eyes how the living entity is in contact with the body and how he is out of it after the destruction of the body. That is why no one in science can ascertain soul and super soul, and therefore the spiritual science is the highest science which cannot be ascertained through material senses. It has to be studied by the downward coming of knowledge. O son of Bharata, as the sun alone illuminates all this universe, so does a living entity, one within the body, illuminate the entire body with consciousness. So here we can see what is our destination in 13.35. One who knows this difference between the body and the owner of the body and can understand the process of liberation attains the supreme goal. So with that, we come to the end of today's chapter. Thank you so much for staying with me. I have just inserted a few more slides. I thought I'll be able to go in more detail. Positive engagements. So these are some life lessons from this chapter. Easier, simpler, and definitely better than artificial controls. So then these are the 6 sections of the chapter. And so chapter 13 has taught us about Purusha, Prakriti, and why this interaction is happening, because of desire to enjoy. And tomorrow in chapter 14, we will learn about the 3 modes of material nature, how they bind the jiva, and how they can be destroyed simply by Krishna Bhakti. So, Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you so much for being here with me. I'm truly grateful for your companionship and association, the devotee association you're providing. Please share your thoughts and reflections. And I'm sorry for taking the class, for making the class so long today. Radhe Radhe Ankur Prabhuji. I hope I did justice to chapter 13. I know I prepared a lot of slides, but I couldn't do all of them. But still, I think the basic idea, I hope I have conveyed chapter 13. Kshetra Kshetragya Vibhag.
Thank you, Mataji.
Yes, Kiran Kumar Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Very beautifully covered, Mataji. Very nicely done.
Yeah, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Please join me tomorrow for the chapter 14. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.